Man events Gold Series, but still a staggering achievement nonetheless.
Yeah, and you know, that's enough from us. Let's get this final quarterfinal on the way. So the first player is going to be from Romania. It's RDU. And his opponent, it's the K-God, it's Kolento.
Quarterfinal number 4, RDU versus Kolento.
It feels like a long road still. One match against not the worst player.
The Chinese people and the whole Hearthstone community loves Kolento since back in the day when he was considered the best player in the world. But I think that right now I am at a better level than him, and I can do it for sure.
RDU? I call him a disgrace of Hearthstone community because he brings aggro lineups all the time. It's important for me to win this tournament, of course. It's like the biggest tournament there is.
For this day to be perfect, first I'll qualify to the World Championship and then I will become Spring Champion. I hope I'll be on the plane back to Romania and I'll be like, man, I did it.
RDU versus Kolento. Let's do this!
Yes, indeed, it's 2017, and we are still watching the likes of RDU go up against Kolento. Welcome, everybody, to the last quarterfinal, the deciding match to see who is going to the semifinals and the World Championships. 2 Europeans and American have gotten through, getting us to this point. Who will it be, Kolento from Ukraine or RDU from Romania? My name is Frodan, I am joined by Brian Kibler, and it is my utmost pleasure to bring you guys this last round of 8 match. Kibler, we're really lucky. We get to start the day, we get to end the day, and we get the best quarterfinals. And I couldn't be more pleased to cast this match here.
Yeah, you said earlier, you know, if this were a boxing fight, you know, this would be the title match. This would be what comes at the end. Everyone's been waiting for this.
Absolutely, and what really becomes important is how the band and lineups are going to align here. We talked about Kolento bringing just the decks that he liked a lot, very similar to his playoffs. RDU is a guy that's, you know, actually, speaking of playoffs, was one of the first people to bring Evolved Shaman and has innovated beyond that.
Yeah, and Kolento brought, in fact, his exact lineup, with the exception of the Evolved Shaman replacing a Paladin deck that he played. We see the bans there. Quest Warrior banned for Kolento. That's his favorite deck, he says. He will not get to play it in this series, while RDU loses out on his aggro Druid.
Yeah, makes sense. Quest Warrior is pretty much even or favored against everything else. Favored against 3 decks, even against the Bird Mage. And the Druid is problematic because the only deck that he could beat it with, assuming his Taunt Warrior is banned, is the Evolved Shaman, so not a very reliable thing. But the big question on everybody's mind is, can Kolento pull off the upset very similar to Hoy? He has a Quest Rogue, and he's facing a fairly aggressive lineup outside of that Bird Mage.
All right, well, game number 1 will be Pirate Warrior for RDU against the Jade Druid for Kolento. This is a matchup that not long ago was seen as oppressive for the Jade Druid deck. Generally, you played Pirate Warrior to beat Jade Druid. That has changed since the introduction of Journey to Un'Goro, and in fact since the rotation of some important cards like Sir Finley Murgleton from the standard format. Now the Pirate Warrior deck can run out of gas and get outpaced by the armor gain of Earthen Scales, which has been a huge component of the Jade Druid's defensive success. RDU picking up that N'Zoth first mate. We were talking earlier, that is the highest overall win rate card in the entire deck, giving him some significant power in turn 1.
Yeah, without that, RDU would have stalled, and that would have given Kolento a lot of time. And it compounds on itself. Bloodsail Raider would no longer get the attack buff. Dread Corsair is no longer playable on turn 3. That was a massive pickup for RDU and might be what gets him over the hump for this matchup alone, but we'll see. We still have a lot of Hearthstone to play. Just because of that first turn doesn't mean that the game is over.
Yeah, but RDU has the perfect curve. He has 1, 2, 3, 4. Kolento, he has some powerful tools. He has Jade Blossom, kind of the N'Zoth's first mate of Jade Druid. We look at the win rate map, but he does not have a ton of time. And Captain Greenskin, another very powerful tool, and just fits directly into RDU's curve.
Yeah, Kolento wisely holds because he has the coin Jade Blossom into a swipe. And that allows him to deal with, at least with most of the minions, assuming that RDU does not pick up a South Sea Captain. RDU's plays are fairly linear, but he is one of those players that loves messing with his opponents to the best of his ability. He is going to rope, he is going to take his time and really think through things, and also try to give Clinto a false sense of information.
Yeah, very clear play here from RDU, but as you mentioned, you know, these players, they have the time before the rope. They can take that time not only to plan out their current turn, but future turns, and potentially throw off their opponents. If he just immediately snaps out Blood Cell Raider, it's like, okay, well, it's pretty clear that he didn't necessarily have any other real options.
Right. You know, it's by holding, it kind of creates the psychology of, well, did he have a better turn 2 play? Which usually on turn 2 you don't. And oh, what an interesting pick here from Kolento as he has the Innervate. That is going to be explosive potential. If he doesn't swipe next turn, he has the ability to Innervate that Jade Behemoth. And that Innervate could turn everything around this matchup, because all you need to do against Pirate Warriors is swing it one turn.
South Sea Captain for RDU, and now this board nearly doubles in power. That means the swipe no longer can clear off the board. That means the Jade Behemoth is in fact just going to trade with 2 of these minions.
Yeah, but he does have Wrath and Innervate Swipe, and he can stabilize from there, and that's a full board clear. And if I'm Kolento, I'm not really complaining if that's my only option at this point, because a clear board means that Pirate Warrior has to start over.
It's true. He is able to clear things off here, but he's taken a lot of damage now. And because he had to use his Innervate, he's now 2 turns away from playing that Jade Behemoth. And RDU has lots of tools to reload.
Oh man, RDU has the quarterfinal lead. A little tempting to think about the Dread Corsair and the South Sea deckhand as well, but looks like RDU just wants to put as much pressure immediately.
Mind Control Tech, the one of in Kolento's deck. He doesn't have a Gluttonous Ooze. This was instead his choice. May not be quite as powerful as the Ooze could be in this matchup. Just going to drop Fandral here. And he's already used a Wrath, only really has Feral Rages that really take advantage of the Fandral's ability, along with a Nourish, of course, in his hand. RDU really has to debate here. How much do I want to respect this Fandral? Do I want to just pile damage into my opponent? Because there is the risk, you know, if Clinto does have Nourish, he could even Nourish into a Feral Rage next turn and play both of them. And that would accelerate his mana, it would give him additional cards, and give him the ability to help clear the board. This is a very threatening minion for Kolento.
Yeah, and if he does Captain Greenskin, and he chooses to clear the board, he does have an opportunity to play Naga Corsair, Dread Corsair, and the South Sea deckhand, all to clear his hand. So looks like the mana usage is there. It's all about whether or not he wants to clear the Fandral.
It's a tough decision because it's a lot of board presence and damage that he would be missing here. Ooh. RDU is just going to go to the face here.
Is it worth kind of attacking here? What does he want to hold on for? If he attacks the Fandral, he kind of makes the preemptive trade, so Fandral has a bad trade into the quarterfinal lead. Or the South Sea Captain, if Earthen Scale is picked up, says, I need that extra damage there.
Kolento has a Jade Behemoth. It'll be an easy fit into his mana here, but the Nourish with Fandral on the board, it's got to be pretty attractive, but it's dangerous. If he does not find Feral Rage, he could just die on his next turn.
Right. I mean, Nourish has a very low chance of just getting exactly what he needs, even if he had Feral Rage. You know, he's still accepting 5 damage, he'd be at 11, but he would have a clear board. Jade Behemoth is also mana efficient. It gets 3/6 in the way, and South Sea Captain plus the weapon right now is overkill. It would the best card for RDU to have would be the South Sea Captain for the perfect trade plus Chargers, but RDU's ready to use 1 South Sea Captain. So percentage-wise, I'm feeling the Jade Behemoth, but does Kolento feel like he needs to go for a Hail Mary with this Nourish?
Definitely taking his time on this decision. He's going to go for it.
Wow.
It's Nourish.
The balls he plays is what makes champions sometimes. He's not rewarded.
None of those are sparkling with the Fandral ability. This could just be lights out for Kolento. I believe the South Sea deckhand is just going to end the game next turn.
Yeah, I think Kolento thinks that if he was able to get any kind of health gain Earthen Scales, Wrath #2, an ability to get a taunt in a way, or maybe just pick up Innervate to help expand his blaze. So may have had a chance. That's not going to be the case here. RDU's going to close out Pirate Warrior versus Jade Druid. And honestly, a pretty big win here because Kolento started off Druid because he needs that to line up into the mage. Now Kolento is kind of forced to play Druid again into the Shaman if RDU is able to capitalize onto it. RDU may have gotten a big component to his victory over Kolento here.
Yeah, that matchup, as we mentioned at the beginning, is one that can be pretty good for the Jade Druid, generally speaking. But that turn 1 Nazoth first mate, just creating the perfect curve for RDU that game, just allowed him to continuously get damage in and really just snowball to victory.
All right, well, Kolento still has an opportunity to turn this around, as RDU is currently up 1-0. RDU has finally made it to the big stage, and he's been working so hard. We talked about this throughout the entire weekend for months now. RDU, the point leader for Europe in the HCT standings in 2016, came 1 round short as he dropped to Pavel in the last Goal Invitational. Now 2 games away from going to the world stage.
It felt really good to finally be qualified to this tournament. So now hopefully I can qualify to the World Championship, which is like my Hearthstone dream. I'm pretty upset when things don't go well. I understand that's the nature of the game, but sometimes it can be very difficult when things go against you. Last year, I was like 1 game of qualifying for the World Championship. I lost to a world champion, Pavel, in the final.
RDU, I think you played like an absolute champion today, but just fell a little bit short.
I lost and I stayed home and I was just sad, trying to get my forces back together and perform again. Hopefully it will go better than this time. Yeah, it's a great sense of relief to get rewarded for all this work that you put in. I considered it at the time to be such a great achievement if I managed to qualify, that when a viewer asked me, would you sing on stream if you qualify? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? If I qualify, sure, I'll do that. And it happened, and I stayed to my promise and sang on stream and made a fool of myself.
Yeah, but in your head, baby, I'm afraid you don't know where it is.
I would rate my karaoke skills maybe 3 on a good day. I enjoy singing, but I think I'm bad at it. But on stream is probably not the best place and I'll probably not do it again. You only have 3 opportunities per year to qualify to one of those global championships. So I'm really happy to be able to take one of them. Now I have to take this opportunity and craft it into a diamond and qualify to the World Championship.
Not one to shy away from the camera, RDU has totally embraced his opportunity here to go to the World Championship. And some may say he has the voice of an angel. I say that he's just a brave man. And one of the funny things too, Kibler, is that we actually do have a karaoke room booked tonight.
We do.
And RDU said, win or lose, he's going to be singing there.
But I will say that I think that RDU will be better off sticking to playing Hearthstone professionally rather than trying to pick up either singing or archery based on that video.
Yeah, don't quit your day job, bro.
No.
And we won't either. It's not like we're great for singers either.
I can do karaoke to Ice Ice Baby, and that's about it.
Well, very thematic for the upcoming expansion Knights of the Frozen Throne. I look forward to that.
Well, I gotta make a parody Ice Ice Baby that.
Well, you've been killing that in that front recently as well. Let's go to game number 2. RDU is currently up 1-0 over Kolento, and Kolento gets the match that he was looking for when he was queuing up his Jade Druid. He needs to hit this because the Jade Druid is largely favored over the Burn Mage. However, this isn't the normal Burn Mage that you're accustomed to. RDU calls it a Control Mage, primarily because it's got a lot of Freeze Mage elements. The way he described it says, I wanted to play Freeze Mage, but I also want to play Mana Worm, so I just stitch them together.
It always feels
stitch them together.
It always feels a little bit weird. A nice Ben Brode impression, by the way. It always feels a little bit weird to have a deck that is Mana Worm into Doomsayer. It's like, what are you doing? But at the same time, the Doomsayer plus Frost Nova component of the deck makes it incredibly powerful against a number of the aggressive decks. It's very strong against the Evolved Shaman. It's very strong against aggressive Druid. It's very strong against even just Quest Rogue to buy you time if they do happen to get to the point where they can complete their quest. So it's a very powerful combination that still has the ability to have those aggressive Mana Worm draws.
Yep, that's right. And RDU does have a couple tools that can help him get the card draw going, which is, I think, the most important thing You want to be able to get to your card draw so you can establish either a burn plan or an aggressive plan through board. Without that Mana Worm, though, looks like he's, and he also sees that his opponent has the Jade idle ramp. He's going to probably fall too far behind on board by the time he gets it. And one of the big things, too, is that part of the reason why the Jade Druid has been so good against these slower mages is not only because it can put a ton of pressure with Jades and hypothetically, you know, go infinite with these Jade idols, but it's also because they have a crazy amount of life gain. So even if they do get Alex Straza out, how do you actually win if they're Earthen Scalings for 10 to 12 armor per use?
Yeah, we were just talking about how Earthen Scales had done a great deal to improve the matchup for Jade Druid against Pirate Warrior. The same is true against these burn-style mage decks, because if you're able to just get a bunch of life on top of specifically armor, on top of your normal life, it makes it extremely difficult for them to win with burn damage. And we just saw how powerful armor gain is against these burn strategies just last match.
Yep.
When the Armor Smith from Nyria just decimated the burn plan from Quotnet.
Well, this is certainly awkward. This is the second Jade idol from Kolento. And if he uses it for tempo, he doesn't have that infinite Jade trade going on. But at the same time, his Acolyte of Pain is also pretty threatening too. And looks like Clinto's going to favor to go for the tempo route. Earthen Scales for 2 armor, second Jade idol. Wow. Not being shuffled in. Clinto has kind of pigeonholed himself. And I don't know, I mean, he looked a little uncomfortable there.
Yeah, I mean, his draw is pretty awkward. And he's kind of put himself in a bit of an awkward situation as well if he does not find any Nourish, specifically Nourish, because he's also used a lot of his cheap spells in his hand. He made it so that an Auctioneer draw isn't necessarily powerful anymore because he played both his Jade Idol and his Earthen Scales. But he's looking to play a tempo-style game here. And RDU, he looks like he might be a little bit stressed about it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get us wrong. I mean, the fact that the Jade Idol is not getting shoveled is a big deal, but it's not going to determine the game by itself.
Right.
A lot of times, the Jade Druid can get the Jades to 10 anyways if they just play everything in their deck, which with the card draw support should be able to do.
Yeah, very often a lot of players overestimate. Oof.
Wow, what a terrible draw for Kolento, the second Primordial Drake. He is going to float all the mana this turn, and RDU could not be happier to just see that, although RDU is the one who looks stressed, as if he's the one who drew double Primordial Drake with Innervate on 5.
Yeah, the Infinite Jade plan not going to be coming into play this match, but you know, Kolento is just looking to have infinite cards that he can actually do anything with in his hand, or even finite, because he only has that Innervate. And Primordial Drake pretty weak overall in this matchup, just a big body essentially, because you're generally not fighting for the board against small minions.
Already with a lot of possibilities here. Can even draw a card first to see what happens off the Acolyte of Pain. You just bump in, draw a card, see if you want to do anything else. If not, maybe this is your opportunity to seize the board. I think the way RDU interprets Kolento hand is that he's coming up on a big power spike for turn 6. Either Black Ball or Jade Behemoth. Little does he know that Kolento's best play is an Innervate Primordial Drake. So by playing smaller minions onto the board, he might play directly into Kolento's hands, at least for that turn.
I mean, this is a situation where I could imagine RDU just pinging his own Acolyte to draw another card and playing Doomsayer because of the threat of a potential tempo 6-drop, as you mentioned, like a Jade Behemoth this turn. Because that is something that can potentially be scary. Looks like he's going to go ahead. Ooh, he's not going to have much time to make his Discover choice. Oh, it looked like he was going to play Glyph, but that's the Ice Block instead.
And RDU does have a counter spell in his deck. So.
All right, there's the Behemoth, though. He did pick up a perfect on-curve play this turn, but it's possible he actually just wants to Innervate out a Drake to kill the Mana Worm as well. He does probably need to save the Innervate, though, because he does have those 2 Auctioneers left in the deck, and he has no cheap spells in his hand, so that may need to cycle into another card.
RDU has a Fireball to answer the 3/6, but it's a little bit mana inefficient. He doesn't even guarantee a board clear, but he does clear off most of the threats here. And it's very apparent that Kolento is just trying to pressure for the win.
What to do?
He also
RDU could just use Volcanic Potion to clear this board. He can attack his Acolyte in Volcanic Potion, which will pump up the Mana Worm, then ping off the 3/3. Okay. So he'll get to draw a card, clear off Kolento's entire board.
Sure, and Volcanic Potion is actually kind of a weak card in this matchup.
It is.
The way Jades work.
he doesn't. It's not necessarily great to be handing back the board to your opponent with nothing in play yourself. But RDU obviously is playing a pretty defensively oriented deck and has 2 Doomsayers in his hand. So
yeah, I like
he doesn't really have much proactive to do. So yeah, he's just going to go ahead and use that Volcanic Potion. I was going to play the Doomsayer rather than Ping. Okay, so here he's saying, okay, well, at least Kolento, you need to use your resources to kill this Doomsayer if you want to develop anything, which means that it's difficult for you to develop anything meaningful.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you were talking about in the previous turn.
Right, exactly.
With RDU setting up that Doomsayer, Clinto doesn't feel comfortable just doing anything else with his mana, and now is passing over, and Colento's tempo plan has been completely stopped by this Doomsayer #1. Also, a ton of information, which is given to RDU as well. No Wrath, no swipes in the hand. No, I mean, you could also justify Feral Rage maybe to just get some tempo out. Maybe he played Feral Rage and a Jade Spirit, for example.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have to have a combination, including something cheap that he could play, like Jade Spirit or Jade Blossom, to want to actually protect that board, because there's a lot of combinations of cards you could have in your hand that you don't want to invest that. You'd rather just hand over the turn to your opponent.
Ooh, Meteor is very appetizing. Fireland's Portal is also an appetizing pick, too.
Yeah, looks like it's double Arcanologist time. Good opportunity for RDU to ensure he does have secrets to get with them. Doesn't want to draw his secrets and have them stranded in his deck.
Just look at the difference in the deck size, and I think that tells you everything about the game so far. Colento hitting dead draws, but RDU's hitting almost all of it. And now Colento has the ability to play some bigger minions now, but it's not even that clean.
Yeah, he finds the Auctioneer, which can potentially give him some more resources, but he only has that Innervate. He did use those cheaper spells early in the game to make that tempo play. Another Firelands Portal picked up for RDU. The inexpensive one, the discounted one, along with a Hero Power and one of his Arcanologists can punch through this. Oh, a Bomb Squad. That is the absolute worst result for RDU.
Absolutely, and it lines up perfectly for another Primordial Drake. Is that enough for Colento to come back in this game?
One thing that's so amazing about this crowd, who you see on the screen right there, every single time something like that happens, whether it's an amazing result, like the Earth Elemental we saw earlier, or Doom Guard, or something terrible for a player, they just react. They love the swings.
And they know the swings, too. They can identify it. A lot of these players in China have played and grinded through the ranks a lot. China is one of the more competitive servers out there because they have 40, 50,000 legends at any given season.
And it's really interesting because the way that Kolento played this game actually lined up for that Bomb Squad to be hugely impactful. He took that really aggressive line early on, playing for tempo, getting a lot of damage in. Now RDU is down to just 11, and now he needs to respond to everything Kolento does.
One of the interesting quirks, by the way, of Gadget Sand Auctioneer and Counterspell is that if you play a spell that gets counterspelled, you still draw a card, by the way. And Kolento knows that RDU has no ice barrier, so that's going to be whether or not he feels like he wants to go for a Gadget Sand and potentially kill this Doomsayer. He will draw a card. Or, once again, he sees his tempo over to his opponent on a turn that looks like an Alexstrasza, which is super scary.
Yeah, there is no Alexstrasza for RDU, but Kolento has to be afraid of it regardless. And Kolento's deep in thought considering his options here.
I want to point out, by the way, that RDU has 21 guaranteed burn, and then the Mediz Valet is 24, most Memorial Blades, so he could also just piece it together, even without Alexstrasza.
It's true, and he does have the ice block that is up, as well as an ice block in his hand to try and maximize this, but he does not have a lot of life to work with.
Yeah.
All that damage Kolento got in early in the game, as well as that Bomb Squad, have really put RDU in a precarious position. Now, RDU has to be afraid, okay, am I going to get just killed, or my block popped by Feral Rage, by Swipe, Doom Guard. All right, the highs and lows. Gets a Bomb Squad, gets a Doom Guard. I think that evens out.
I guess. It all depends. I mean, Kolento last game went for a very ballsy play with the Fandral Nourish instead of a guaranteed taunt, which cost him. In this game, he had an opportunity to go for a risky play, and it didn't. It wouldn't have worked out. We know that Nourish would have came in here, but at this point, Kolento, is he going to be able to stabilize? Because RDU can now completely shift game plans.
And Kolento is really low on armor game. He used that Earthen Scales early in the game. He has no Feral Rage in his hand. He doesn't have the second Earthen Scales. And look at that. RDU is 7-0 in this tournament. He has yet to lose a game. This one may be the closest he has played yet.
Trying to count the damage, see if RDU can set up a guaranteed 2-turn lethal. But with the threat of Fail Rage and other cards like that, no such thing.
It's always dangerous to try and go for that kind of setup against an opponent who has a lot of armor gain, as we saw just recently.
Oh, here we go.
All right, Earthen Scales for Kolento. That will give him some breathing room and pairs very well with the Auctioneer.
Yep, Auctioneer has the ability to innervate, even nourish 4 cards, and then Earthen Scales. There's also that very weird, very, very weird niche scenario where you can nourish for crystals if you need to get extra mana to play stuff.
But Kolento is going to need to find more than just this one armor gain card, because RDU has the Pyroblast in his hand. The Innervate will be countered.
Oh, that's right. We forgot about Counterspell. Well, I forgot about Counterspell. You did.
And Kolento did not either. Does not fire the Nourish in there. And Nourish will pick him up some action and give him some of those crystals back because of the Fandral. So he's going for this line here. Earthen Scales can gain him 4. That puts him to 17.
And he knows the threat of Pyroblast is also a way to end the game.
Time waits for no one.
Oh, man. The only way for Clinto to survive here is to play Earthen Scales. And if he just Jade Blossoms, that's it.
All right, well, that is going to be it. Kolento taking a risky line here, trying to get more value off Earthen Scales, but RDU has the burn, and he remains undefeated in games. He is 1 game away from the World Championship.
2-0, RDU can almost taste a semi-final berth. And Kolento has lost his best matchup by far in this series. When I was gridding it out, Kolento only had 2 matchups that he'd be really happy to face. The Shaman versus the Pirate Warrior and the Jade Druid versus the Mage. Everything else was equal or worse than that. And I think right now Kolento has to win 3 matchups, which are going to be unfavored or even at best.
And considering the rate at which we've seen RDU winning bad matchups, that's a scary prospect.
Yeah, I do want to commend that RDU had a very good way to stay composed, but I mean, at the same time, Kolento's draw, that game was pretty abysmal.
It was very bad.
Given that he had a really good start, and it just fizzled completely. But that's how Jade Druid loses a good portion of the time in the matchups that they're favored in.
I mean, if Jade Druid just had what it needed all the time, it would be basically unbeatable because it has, the ramp and the card draw and the armor gain. So the sort of fail rate of the deck, where you just don't get the right pieces at the right times, is a big part of the games that it does lose.
Yeah, but that's also why Clinto's not out of this series, because as much as the odds are stacked against him right now, and his chances of winning are barely in the double digits right now, based off of just how the matchups line up, it's going to be really tough. And if RDU is able to win this game, he will join Hoy, Neria, and Ant in the semifinals, which is coming up right after this match.
Greetings from Shanghai, my friends. Don't you stray too far away from that fire. There's more tales to tell. Coming up from China, Hoy and Ant.
Ant and Neria, they are on cloud 9 at this point.
All smiles. Ant actually came up to me backstage earlier, and he's like, "Can I give you a hug?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah."
Hoy, of course, is in good spirits. I had a challenge friend quest, and he was like, "I'll do it." And that was like the most enthusiastic and happy I've ever seen Hoy. Those guys are elated to be in the semifinals. And while there's a lot of pride and a lot of money to be won for every single best of 5 they win from this point onwards, they felt like being able to get to the World Championships guaranteed was even bigger for them.
Although there is one player who's in this match who said, "I want to win," and that's RDU. He's not just here to qualify for the World Championship. He wants the title.
All right, well, let's go into an Evolved Shaman mirror. Keep in mind, at the very beginning of Journey to Un'Goro, Evolved Shaman was still kind of a joke within the deck builder community. They thought it was just more of a fun deck until RDU was the one brave enough to bring it to the European playoffs and qualify. It's a little bit different than it is now, because back then it had Lava Burst, Twilight Hammer, and a bunch of other aggressive cards, but he was one of the forerunners to really popularize that deck.
I think the deck that he played was more of an aggro Shaman rather than Evolved Shaman. I'm not sure it actually had Doppelganger Evolve in it.
It did have Evolve. didn't it?
I'm not 100% sure on this. I know it was a more aggressive deck. He had like Hammer of Twilight and various burn spells, but very few people were playing Shaman pretty early on. He was one of the people who had a lot of success with it, and then the deck appropriately evolved over the rest of the metagame and has come to the more refined versions that these players are using today.
At least we can agree that it was a token-based Shaman at its core.
It was a Bloodlust Shaman deck primarily.
So while it isn't maybe the playing that package that we know today, it was largely in the form of Primal Fin Totem, which we kind of laughed at first. We're like, oh, Primal Fin Totem, oh, it just plays directly into your opponent's Hungry Crab. And now, RDU's the one kind of laughing, but who will get the last laugh here? What does Clinto need to do to come back in the series, Kibler?
Well, this obviously has to win this game and the next game and the next game, but he's playing against the Evolve Shaman deck. He has ways to win against this deck. You know, this is a deck that's very strong against aggressive decks generally. The decks that Kolento has, they're not aggressive. He has, you know, the Jade Druid deck. He has the Quest Rogue deck. He has this Mirror Match. So these are all decks that can piece together the tools to beat the Evolve Shaman.
Right, and now that RDU's got the toughest matchups underway, he has to win matchups where, again, he's either even or favored against. And RDU was soaring with confidence yesterday. He said, if I play against Kolento, I have a really strong chance. I feel like I can even get there just based off how strong my lineup is and not necessarily even have to play to the best of my ability. That's how favored he felt like against Kolento.
And in this game, Kolento currently has a much stronger opening hand than RDU does. RDU has some later game cards in the form of Devolve, Thing from Below, Jade Lightning. He has a Flame Tongue Totem, but without the early minions, without the one-drop, it's much less powerful. The player who gets on the board first tends to have a significant advantage in this matchup, and Kolento has the much better early curve with the Firefly, Flame Elemental, and Jade Claws.
Yeah, and the fact that he drew Firefly right on turn one, a huge component to him winning the board, just as big as RDU winning with that N'Zoth's first mate against the Jade Druid. RDU didn't have a good turn two play, but now that he has Primal Fin Totem, he actually has something to do now.
And this is pretty strong here. Kolento does have the ability to remove it with his Jade Claws, but that will at least leave the Murloc up. So RDU could potentially get a minion killed with perhaps the Flame Tongue Totem, or just otherwise find another way to help develop his board. There's also the fact that Kolento doesn't necessarily have to kill the Primal Fin. He can just attack into the Murloc here with his Firefly, and potentially even just hero power. He did just pick up the Thing from Below, but I think he's going to respect the totem here. Yeah, Jade Claws comes down, and that is one less minion for RDU.
Yeah, I think the Primal Fin Totem is too good if it gets tucked behind a Stonehill Defender at this point. So, you know, Stonehill Defender, not necessarily the greatest on turn 3 in a lot of matchups, but in an aggressive token-based matchup, it's actually a godsend because it stalls for time, weakens your opponent's board so that Maelstrom Portal gets better, a lot of other things.
Yeah, Stonehill Defender being able to defend your small minions from your opponent's maybe slightly bigger minions, maybe their weapons, really helps protect your early board position, and that is crucial in this matchup. And RDU rolling a Searing Totem here has him feeling pretty bad because now he's used most of his mana for the turn, and Kolento already has his board dominated. We may see him fire off the Evolve even? No, he's going to hold on to it. Looked like he was definitely debating it, though.
Definitely at least worth thinking about, even if you don't do it. Just you think about, like, what are 2 mana cards worth at this point? And it's not that much. Clinto does have only 2 mana available to him, but he's got a really good play here, either the Mana Tide or the Stonehill Defender, unless he's thinking about saving the coin, but I like any of those 3 mana minions.
Coining out one of these minions here puts RDU in a position where he's forced to react. For instance, the Mana Tide Totem, RDU would really feel like he wants to get rid of that because obviously otherwise Kolento would just continue to accumulate additional resources.
Right.
And the Stonehill could potentially just be a body here that's going to help Kolento protect his other minions, but the Mana Tide is the more immediate threat that demands an answer from RDU. So really, if he doesn't have a Jade Lightning or Flame Tongue plus patches, difficult for him to get rid of right away.
Right, and the Jade Lightning puts RDU in a spot where he has to react this way, otherwise he falls really far behind, and then Clinto can react off of that. He had the Jade Claw saved up, and now he can seize back the board immediately with Stonehill Defender and Flame Elemental, and grab tempo that way.
Maelstrom Portal, that's one of the very powerful cards in this mirror match because there are so many small minions. Sometimes it's not quite enough to actually kill your opponent's board, but if you do get the Wrath of Air totem, it is very often just backbreaking.
Right. Or even just pairing it with Devolve is good enough because a lot of those minions are 1 or 2 mana costs, and devolving it allows Maelstrom Portal to kill off most of it, if not all. So it doesn't pick up any of the really big, powerful taunts that you see from Shaman. You talk about Earth Elemental, Alakir, even White Eyes isn't that bad, considering that it might show up if this game becomes a war of attrition. Sunwalker is pretty problematic. Dirty Rat also has a case too. If you're able to react to whatever your opponent plays, you can pull out some really strong minions from your opponent's hand. He chooses Cyclopean Horror. That's also a very interesting pick considering this is a token deck, so that gains a lot of stats too.
Yeah, it can be pretty big if RDU gets a bunch of minions on the board, and that's sort of what the deck tries to do. Cyclopean Horror can be an undercosted Senjin plus.
Yeah, and if it gets like 6 health, that's really problematic for your opponent to deal with efficiently unless they have Flame Tongue Totem or a Devolve.
Yeah, right now things are looking pretty bad for RDU. He just picked up a Bloodlust. He's already behind on the board. That's the last card you want to see at that point. And Kolento, not only does he have a significant board presence, but he has Doppelganger plus Evolve in hand. If he gets a little bit more time, that combination is going to be absolutely backbreaking.
Yeah, tough spot. The best play is Thing from Below. Either you totem or you play Primal from Totem. So that makes you very vulnerable to a lot of things. Flame Tongue Totem would be really bad here. Although Clinto positioned in a way where Flame Tongue is not the optimal. So maybe that actually was a slight tell on Clinto. It could be a little bit of a slip up, but it doesn't end up being something that matters because Clinto doesn't have the Flame Tongue anyways.
Yeah, there are lots of just little things, particularly in matchups like this, that can really swing these games. I mean, if Clinto did pick up a Flame Tongue right there, he would potentially be forced to use his Jade Claws or sacrifice his Stonehill in order to actually kill the thing from below.
No Wrath of Air Totem, so Maelstrom Portal won't allow him just to push over and fully board immediately. Ooh, Nazav's first mate is also really sketchy because it sets up for your opponent's Maelstrom Portal as well. I was wondering if Kolento was debating if he wanted to evolve, but I noticed that he picked up Doppelganger, so that looks like a very obvious setup for Doppelganger to evolve. Oh, wait. Just kidding. Clinto actually positioned correctly.
All right.
At the very end, Flame Elemental
revealed
and said, "Ha-ha! You thought I was on the far left, but I was actually in the middle."
You think Kolento made a mistake, you fool!
He was testing our faith, and I doubted. I am no longer worthy of this cast, Kibler. I guess we have to summon Rob Wing to take over for me.
Uh-oh. Let's not do that.
Wow! He's sitting right there! Oh, man.
I just like you so much, bro.
Yeah, thank you. Not too bad yourself.
All right, so RDU picks up a Jade Lightning, and that's not really what you want in terms of trying to answer a board like this. Jade Lightning obviously great if there were one big thing or medium-sized thing, I suppose. Yeah, gonna have to fire it off into the Stonehill. Yeah. And this is a indication of RDU knows he's in bad straits. You rarely want to commit a Flame Tongue Totem into a board where you are behind like this, but RDU is just recognizing, okay, there could very easily be a Doppel Evolve this turn. Bloodsail Corsair picked up for Kolento. I think we're still just going to see the Doppel Evolve.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to weigh, like, what's the value of being able to go very wide on the board versus use Doppelganger to evolve, and this takes the cake.
It's just hard to beat this. This is 3 6-drops and a 2-drop. No Doomsayer.
Whew. And that's a meaty 6-drop. Boulder-Fist Ogre alone probably makes up for the small deficit of stats and the other minions. RDU picks up Portal. Let's see. If he devolves... Actually, hold on. Let's actually really think about this.
He could devolve into 3 Doppelgangsters. I want to see that happen sometime. See it.
Or 3 Bomb Squads. Why are you even stopping there, man?
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to be, you know, be realistic. 2 Doppelgangers in a Bomb Squad. How about that?
We'll split the difference there. I'm trying to think about the devolves, but on average, the stats stay around the same.
Yeah, the Nerubian Prophet and the Kidnapper are both pretty bad results.
Right, those are almost 5 mana minions anyways.
Right, so the Devolve is not really doing a ton here to even make them better. Oh, and they do! Upgraded a Tar Lurker. That's going to block everything RDU has.
Wow, RDU looks really stressed from that moment there. Making a tough decision. Does he have to evolve? No, he's just going to hold on, but I don't think he's going to have a board to get a good evolve anymore after this turn, so he's going to rely on Doppelganger to draw. And Kolento has Bloodlust and Flame Tongue Totem. Let's count the damage.
He's got 12 from the Bloodlust itself, so there's 19, 20, 21 plus 4, 25.
Super close. But maybe that means he just can take it a little bit easier. This deck does not run Volcanoes. It doesn't run Lightning Storms traditionally. Sometimes you take that in. We saw it recently with Mage doing that, and it helps in the mirror. But it doesn't look like RDU will have a chance to bail himself out as long as Clinto takes it easy and sets it for a lethal while clearing the board.
Yeah, there's not that much RDU can do to really get back into this particular game. But Clinto can just clear his board, push some damage, and that Bloodlust will just be lethal again next turn.
I think he's just doing his due diligence. How do I play around Portal? Do I play around Portal? Best way to get some damage guaranteed. He wants to keep his board space clear for Flame Tongue and Bloodlust anyway, so he doesn't play a 1-mana minion. Great setup here from Kolento. RDU has to get spell damage totem.
Nope, Searing once again. This is all Searings all the time for RDU in this game.
And I guess at this point you don't acknowledge Bloodlust as a real card, but the reality is Kolento has won the mirror and what could potentially be the beginning of a comeback.
Yeah, we saw a little tidbit earlier. Clinto won his series against Diego Diaz earlier in the weekend after being down 0-2. Can he make the comeback once again here against RDU when it really counts?
Chinese fans are loving it. And even the back seats are filled right now for Colento's match. And I gotta make one observation here, Kibler. When the Chinese players all dropped in the round of 16, a lot of the Chinese fans started latching on to some of the people that they can call proxies. You know, we know Mage and Quonet, for example, speak very good Chinese, even doing some interviews, and the Chinese fans kind of identify with that. But then they dropped, and Citizen Nap also comes from Asian descent. He dropped. Kolento is pretty much an honorary Chinese citizen by now. He is the last member that the Chinese players are rooting for, and if he drops here, I think the crowd would be devastated.
Well, we heard their cheers throughout the weekend, and they may have cheered louder for Kolento than anyone else.
Well, Colento's success and playing style have helped him build a reputation throughout the Hearthstone community, and it's pretty much unparalleled. Here's why.
Kolento's just been on an absolute tear for the last couple of months.
It feels like the China fans like Kolento more than the Chinese players.
Kolento is going to take it.
Kolento was able to capitalize.
I think one of the reasons Clinto is very popular in China because he is very handsome.
Kind of a blowout win for Kolento.
Kolento is a very famous player in Japan.
Kolento hardly makes mistakes and he creates lots of decks.
He was really one of those first untouchable players in Hearthstone.
I used to watch a lot of his streams. I learned the best from him. I consider myself as his student. The student is gonna beat the master.
Yeah, I talked to him. He was always threatening to beat me. Funny kid.
You see guys like Kolento getting a lot of attention.
You mean Kolento?
Yes.
Precisely Kolento, yeah.
I think it has always been the case that people just trying to beat me more than like going for a good solid strategy. Well, why would I be popular here? I don't know why it happened. Maybe they just watch like European tournaments and they like that point that I'm winning a lot. I mean, I know many people learned from me because I was there since the beginning, and I was also really good. I made a lot of decks. Whenever I play like a different card game, I'm always good at it because I just know how things works. So no wonder like many people learn from me.
Cold-blooded from Kolento, man.
Being correct. I think I'm a very logical person. Logic, imagination, I have these qualities. Competing is fun, winning is fun.
Woo, that closing shot. Clinto is always watching, and one of the things I think that I like a lot about what he just said was sometimes people care more about beating him than actually having a good strategy. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I can get why he would say that. A lot of people just say, oh yeah, I beat Kolento, and they don't really think about the plays or the decks.
Well, we heard Mage earlier, one of the interviews, he said, you know, I beat Kolento. That's a huge accomplishment. And here he is just making the top 8 of this championship. But what he cares about is that he had beaten Kolento. That's what he's talking about.
That's right. And, you know, Kolento, apparently he has disciples everywhere. Maybe we can make an Old Gods expansion after him. Disciple of Kolento. Kolento.
There's 3 Kolentos there.
Kolento!
Okay, it was just a delayed Kolento.
And then Kolento comes out onto the board and just says something really insulting like, your deck is bad.
I bleed for Kolento.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, well. Kolento, though, taking his time with this mulligan. And you know, this matchup against the Evolved Shaman can be a very difficult one for the Jade Druid. It can struggle to deal with particularly the Doppelganger Evolve combo, simply because it puts so many big minions in play very quickly.
Yeah, but full mulligan from RDU will probably give Clinto some reassurance there as he turns back to the Jade Druid, which has been a deck that has struggled a ton, to say the least. Wow-wee, what a hand. Clinto is double Jade Blossom. But hey!
There's Doppel Evolve in RDU's hand, but Kolento does have the kind of draw that can beat it. He has... Oh, there's a Hungry Crab.
Sure, I mean...
He has, Hungry Crab's not irrelevant. There are the Primal Fin Totems that make Murlocs, and there is the possibility that he just wants to play it in order to threaten this other 1-2. And that's, I think, what he's deep in thought about.
Right, but he knows that RDU full mulligan, so there's a less likelihood of him having that on turn 2. And Kolento most likely wants to coin out the Jade Blossom the next turn. Although, if he... It is something to wonder about, because if his opponent did play Primal Fin Totem, then he could play Hungry Crab, and then Jade Blossom into the Jade Behemoth. Definitely a curious mental exercise, but we'll move on, and maybe someone else will do some math there to help us figure it out. Kolento's got the coin, Jade Blossom train into the Behemoth, and that'll mean Jade Behemoth will bully the board significantly.
So there's Primal Fin Totem.
Wow, and it works perfectly. Jade Blossom, Hungry Crab.
Yeah.
Kolento's a genius. Remember when Clinto said it was easy? I'm starting to believe him.
I think there should be a bunch more people who are on the top level at Hearthstone, really. Because I don't see how the game is so difficult for people. You just have to be smart with it. I can even play it with my leg, probably. You just have to be smart with it. It's not so difficult.
I love that he says that as he folds his arm across his body as if he's ready to play with his big toe. Clinto, what a big swing and ramp. Pretty much everything that you want from that turn. Wowee.
RDU has a pretty decent answer here. The Devolve will turn that 3-4 into a Wisp and turn the 2-2 into a 1-drop. Is RDU perhaps debating whether he wants to Jade Lightning here in order to save Devolve to get through taunts?
He does have 2 Devolves, which is the one thing that I think is really clogging his hand up. He's got to find good use of it over multiple turns.
Because the Devolve works with allowing him to squeeze in a hero power here. He really wants to see... All right, the Ugly Cat. And now he can take out both of them. So still the only player now with minions on the board.
Now you prefer Q-Cat, but Ugly Cat has feelings too. I just want to put that out there.
Ugly Cat always dies. How can possibly have feelings?
That's why he has feelings. He feels a lot. Kolento's going to load up a big amount of stats on the board. RDU picks up the thing from below. Kind of curious if that changes anything, because it originally looked like a Jade Lightning play, but maybe it's going to change.
And the spell power Jade Lightning here does allow him to punch through the Jade Behemoth. It does mean that the 3-3 Jade remains on the board. But next turn, he does have Doppelvolve set up.
Yeah, and I mean, he's controlled the board pretty well up until this point. And Clinto doesn't have a very strong turn 7. Turn 7 is one of the more passive turns from Jade Druid, assuming that they even curve out correctly. There's no, like, 7-mana minion. In fact, actually, sorry, there is the Curator, but he doesn't have it in his hand.
Clinto finds a swipe here, be huge. Feral Rage, he could pair that with Fandral if he wants.
knows he's coming up on the Doppelganger Revolve turn as well. So by setting up Fandral, he kind of makes his opponent have to clear it off. Because if you Doppelganger Revolve, you're almost accepting that Fandral stays alive on the board unless you evolve into a Reckless Rocketeer. Argent Commander wouldn't be enough.
At the same time, though, Nourish has to be particularly attractive because of the fact that you're going into turn 8, and you'd love to dig through your deck and find yourself a Primordial Drake. He's still able to use his hero power to take down a minion as well. So clear off at least a couple of things on the board here. Finds Innervate to go with Swipe.
Innervate Swipe.
He can clear this entire board.
But he also has Auctioneer, but he's got Wild Growth, so he's got ways to draw cards even if he parts ways with the Innervate Swipe here.
Yeah, and the thing about the Innervate Swipe here is that, yes, it clears the board, but this isn't necessarily a stage where the board is incredibly dangerous. There's not like a Bloodlust is going to kill him if he takes 2 things off here, but he's going to go for it anyway. Clears everything. Now RDU, though, a big reload. Doppelvolve.
That's just not what you want to see, but RDU is going to go for a big evolve, hoping to get a lot of stats. Stats it is! Aya Blackpaw, Scarab Cultist, almost as good as it gets.
Primordial Drake, a very good draw from Kolento, though, can allow him to stem some of this bleeding.
That's right, and it does also kind of make it complicated that the 3-3 already trades into both these 5-3 bodies, so Clinto can maybe not panic as much.
Well, I believe the Jade that's going to come off of Aya is just a 2-2, so he could even attack into the Aya Primordial Drake, and then leave just the Scarum Cultist and the damaged Kidnapper on the board. Gonna be Fandral, though, to go with the Feral Rage. I think he wants to take down the 7-6. No, he's going to go ahead and take down Aya here. All right.
A value trade.
And this, I think, is in part because Primordial Drake has tons of value later. Primordial Drake is especially strong against the wide boards that threaten Bloodlust, whereas this is a very strong board from RDU that he has alternate ways that he can deal with.
He's baiting RDU into the value trade. He's trying to bait him super hard so he gets a Primordial Drake. This is a complete setup. RDU has not seen the Curator, so it's, you know, anyone's call of whether or not Primordial Drake's in the hand. He also has Barnes, by the way, a very interesting tech choice, and RDU said he just wants another really good target for Evolve, because if Barnes hits Thing from Below or a Doppelganger, then the Evolve gets that much stronger.
It's also just 2 minions for Bloodlust, too.
Yeah, I mean, it works really well in the deck. Some people were even thinking about tossing in Jade Spirits originally into the Evolve Shaman, but realized it's too slow.
Gets himself a taunt. Doesn't really do too much.
And it's all about whether or not RDU wants to take this trade, and and RDU's trying to calculate everything. The odds, how many cards remain in Colento's deck, what's the likelihood that he's setting up for Drake, but it seems fairly obvious. If to us, because we see it, can RDU put Kolento on Primordial Drake?
Even if he doesn't take the trade, even if he just were to go face, although with the Thing from Below, this could potentially change things. Yeah, he's going face. He's already seen a Nourish, he's already seen a Feral Rage, not that many things that can really punish him with this Fandral here.
It punishes him both ways, though, because now that the Thing from Below comes down, Kolento is prepared for it either way, because the Fandral gets to trade into the Thing from Below, and RDU can't push past the Primordial Drake without both those minions.
The Primordial Drake will still leave up the Scarum Cultist and the Barnes here if he does go for it, and he will.
Yeah, and this is actually where the patches actually can come in pretty clutch. Yep. You don't have to commit the Barnes to it either. Oh, man, and this is where the patches draw really makes it known. Oh, that's just hard to swallow there for RDU. Because if he had the Bloodsail Corsair, he wouldn't have that patch to get him a better card than that. Would you devolve here?
It's tough because, you know, the stats of the Primordial Drake aren't that crazy for an 8. He's going to go for it.
Okay, about average.
Still a 6-6.
It's kind of what you expect. But at least now he can maybe just push and make the...
Yeah, he needs the damage.
Corsair can come down. You can save patches, because I think it's the same either way with the Flame Tongue or the Bloodlust.
Well, Kolento now knows 100% RDU's card is patches.
Right.
He's actually just going to play it.
For him, he's maybe thinking that 1 damage might matter.
Yeah.
And it might.
Oh, Wild Growth number 2. This could be a huge auctioneer turn for Kolento if he wants to go for it.
Aya Black Pulse looks pretty appetizing as well because you get to squeeze in the hero power with the Wild Growth if you don't pick up Swipe. Right now, Kolento's looking for Swipe. Actually, he would love a Wrath into 1 into Swipe. That would probably be the perfect draw. He hesitated over the Wild Growth because he's trying to see if maybe it's better to play the Auctioneer. What are the chances that he hits that Innervate?
Wild Growth first, trying to find a way to really put the nail in RDU's coffin. Either Primordial Ring or Swipe. There's Swipe! Are you kidding me? Kolento didn't even flinch. He's just absolutely stone-faced as he rips a Swipe off the top of his deck to just absolutely demolish RDU's board here.
Yeah, Clinto can play this Wild Growth, not play the excess mana, save it for the Gadget and Auctioneer. And RDU's board is going bye-bye. Kolento's gonna be able to stabilize. He's even willing to accept damage to the face. That's how confident he is right now.
RDU needed that Mana Tide Totem a long time ago.
But
He
hey,
is absolutely out of resources.
What if he picks up the Doppelganger Evolve?
Yeah, he could just pick up Doppelganger off the first draw and then pick up Evolve on his next turn. But Kolento, there's Doppelganger.
I'm sensing something crazy here.
Kolento, though, he's got an Auctioneer turn with excess mana starting his hand, or Aya here. And then there's a Mind Control deck.
Crowd's alive right now.
Oh, they are loving this game.
How big are the Jades? I remember the Jade Behemoth was a 3/3, so it's a 4/4? Wow, okay. It's pretty hard to turn down a big Jade turn this right now.
I think Kolento's trying to figure out if there's, for instance, running Bloodlust, if there's a way for him to lose this game. So, for instance, if RDU has Bloodlust, can he do anything to stop that? Because he's trying to figure out, does he need to commit? How can he commit his mana here? And it looks like just Aya plus Jade is going to be his best overall impactful turn. He would die to Bloodlust, but there's nothing he can do about it anyway. His hero power can't take down either of these minions after the Abyssal Enforcer kills the Mana Tide.
Right. Double Jades all the way.
It's actually not even killing the mana. Okay, he recognizes he's just going to end this game very soon. He does not care about the Mana Tide. He's just going to take out the one minion with attack.
Yeah, and then because he has so much board presence, it doesn't really matter if his opponent's able to have that Mana Tide Totem because Bloodlust wouldn't be an activator for serious damage if he clears everything. Or if he's even threatening lethal. 5, 10, 22
No, he's
on
got
the
22,
board.
so not quite lethal damage represented for Kolento here.
I mean, Doppelganger and Maelstrom Portal puts out as much as he can. No Bloodlust.
Not going to do it.
Wrath's a good draw.
It even has the Mind Control tech.
Oh, you're right. Mind Control tech could steal a lot of valuable minions here. Wrath first. See what you draw. He's looking for anything that can give him a taunt as well. We're looking at the Primordial Drakes or the Jade Behemoth number 2.
Kolento could just take this slow. He has all the tools he needs. RDU is out of action. As long as Kolento is just careful, and Kolento's always careful, he can just remove RDU's board and leave him with absolutely no threats as this Jade train keeps rolling.
Right. Mind Control Tech will steal a minion. He could kill the totems first to make sure that he steals a quality minion as well. That's what he's doing, killing off these 2 lifeless totems. Unless he wants Searing Tome. I mean, Searing Tome's not necessarily that bad of a pull considering his board state. Mind Control Tech. Mana Tide Totem. Why not? Jade Spirit. Kolento has everything under control. RDU has nothing. He's got Primal Fin Totem and a Dream. Game 4 is in the books. We are going to the rubber match.
This was looking like it was going all RDU's way. He had been 6-0 in games coming into this match. He was up to 8-0. Now that's 8-2. And it's just one game left to decide which of these players moves on to the World Championship.
And it's going to be a tough one because you thought that matchup was unfavorable. He's got Quest Rogue against Shaman. And I have a hard time winning that matchup from the Quest Rogue point of view because you have to do a lot of things right, and also a lot of things have to go right in your favor.
It's true, but if you're looking to try and beat an aggressive deck with Quest Rogue, the Shaman deck is one of the ones that you have, I think, the best chance to beat, because Vanish in particular is so powerful against the Quest Rogue, or rather against the Shaman. We saw Hoy win this matchup earlier today against Citizen Napa, and it was on the back of Vanish and, of course, impeccable play.
RDU was sweating. He was up 2-0, winning unfavorable matchups. Is he able to keep it together for game number 5, where it's all on the line? One game, one player is going to the semifinals. And I do want to point out, back in 2014, excuse me, for the European Championship, Kolento was playing Tice. You may have heard of him, a player that won back-to-back European Championships in a course of 2 years. He played him in the round of 8, denying Tice to be able to go to the World Championship. This might be very much the same thing to his teammate. Imagine if he stops 2 members from G2 in the round of 8 at a championship.
And this is Colento's 3rd Game 5 in a series. RDU has yet to play a Game 4 before this series. And now he's going to Game 5. Very different roads for these 2 players getting here, but they're in the same place now, and it all comes down to this.
Game 5, Quest Rogue versus the Shaman. It's already looking a little weird here, as things like Doppelganger Evolve are actually very problematic in the matchup, primarily for what you mentioned, the threat of Vanish. Full mulligan for RDU, that's not what you want to see.
Yeah, if you're in the position of the Shaman in this matchup, you generally actually want to use your evolves on smaller boards. You don't want to evolve a Doppelganger, because if you do get Banished, it does nothing.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts so bad. RDU draws patches in the opening hand. This is a deck that can bounce back from it, but that's definitely not what you want to see.
And Kolento, he has some pretty strong tools. He has the Novice Engineer to get him some more resources. He has Igneous Elemental to advance him toward the quest. The Barnes for RDU, that is possibly his better evolve activator in this matchup because of the threat of Vanish. But no early play once again from RDU. He has really struggled to find good opening hands with this Shaman deck in the early game.
And that Barnes tech kind of staring at him saying, what if I was a different card here? Given the fact that it seemed like he cut a Stonehill Defender, so it wouldn't be that big of an impact for this turn. RDU, if he plays patches, knows that Quest Rogue loves a dagger on turn 2. They tend to do that to really budget their resources, so he might be playing directly into what Quest Rogue wants to do anyways. And with Flame Tongue in hand, I have to imagine he wants to hold on to that patches.
Patches does combine well with Flame Tongue as well as Bloodlust, but this is a matchup where you don't tend to do tons of Flame Tongue trading because so many of the Quest Rogue's minions are so small, but this is also a matchup where your early game is so impactful because you need to get the pressure on. Colento's going to start things off with Novice Engineer, and 2 Igneous Elementals means if they die, he has everything he needs to complete the quest. You hear the crowd roar as that Shadow Step is picked up.
Yeah, I mean, the Shadow Step's nice and all, but it's going to be whether or not Kolento can really get these Igneous Elementals out. If RDU picks up Devolve, that's pretty much the state of the game, unless Kolento picks up a better alternative for the quest.
RDU finding a Firefly crucially on turn 2, giving him some board presence here. But Igneous Elemental, the bigger Firefly, comes down to bully his little brother.
No Devolve for RDU, and he's starting to worry a little bit, because if this Igneous Elemental dies, if his opponent just has 2 bouncers, that's it. The quest is done, and he's going to be really far behind. And it's one of those weird catch-22s. Igneous Elemental is statted perfectly to bully a lot of Shaman cards with a 3 health and its 2 attack. But at the same time, killing the Igneous Elemental plays directly into the Quest Rogue's hand.
It's definitely a kind of damn if you do, damn if you don't kind of thing. You really don't want to leave that body in play, but if you kill it, you're potentially accelerating them, all those minions becoming 5/5s across the board. And you can deal with that if you're in a position where you're pushing a lot of damage, where you can just end the game with Bloodlust, but RDU has yet to damage Kolento.
He can go for an aggressive route. He drew Jade Claus, which allows him to go for Jade Claus, Flame Tongue Totem. That lets him set up either the patches for the next turn or the Mana Tide. He can also save that coin if he wants to use it for something else. He's going for Barnes directly. Looking for any kind of taunt to get in the way. That's huge for RDU. Forcing Kolento to dagger if he didn't want to this turn.
Yeah, that really messes up Kolento's curve here. Kolento could have played the Igneous Elemental number 2, which would have potentially allowed him, if that died, to simply have all of the resources he needs to play his quest.
That Barnes was so risky because of that Igneous Elemental can kill itself off. Now, one thing that we didn't mention is RDU has that Bloodlust, so if he's able to expand the board enough, he can threaten to end the Quest Rogue, which doesn't really have healing in the deck outside of Swashbuckler Thievery. What does Clinto want to do? Does he want to sacrifice this Igneous Elemental, or does he want to play the second one and really expose himself to Devolve?
It's definitely a tough spot. He knows that RDU full mulligan. He knows that RDU's at least initial hand was quite poor, and there could be anything. You know, he saw very few plays early in the game, so there very easily could be.
Oh man.
Okay.
He's exposing himself to the Devolve, but he does have one Igneous Elemental trading in.
It's true.
So at least he gets to kind of hedge there. This is actually, I actually like this. It's halfway. He's trying to adjust the board a little bit, cash in his Igneous, while developing his second one.
An evolve for RDU. Because of the damage on the Barnes, he can't get a good attack with that and then still evolve it. He could trade one of his minions here in with a Flame Tongue into the Igneous, and then perhaps play his evolve, or perhaps Jade Claws. If he does Jade Claws, he can't Bloodlust next turn.
Right. And if he's going to Bloodlust, he wants to set the Flame Tongue now so he can push as much damage as he can. That really restricts his mana.
He'd really like to kill both of these minions on the board right now because he knows that Kolento has 2 Flame Elementals in his hand. If he has Preparation, that means that he can just complete and play the Quest of Crystal Core next turn, which would mean that these minions just become 5/5. They'd be so much more threatening.
I like setting up the Flame Tongue, but if he plays J-Claws, he will be overloaded. What it does do is allows him to play Patches and Bloodlust while pushing 8. RDU sees the line. He's not going to win next turn. He's going to try to win the turn after, if he can. Clento's got 4 pieces of the quest.
That's not preparation.
That's not preparation.
He's looking for prep more than anything. He does. Tark Reaper's good, though. Tark Reaper is a body that he can use to get in the way of these minions. His life total is his most important resource right now.
But I mean, that's kind of the power of the South Sea deckhand, which Clinto used early, so that way he can guarantee himself the Flame Elementals. And if he had that, he'd be able to take down this Flame Tongue Totem.
And one thing Kolento can also do is potentially play the Bilefin Tidehunter and Shadow Step it, so he's guaranteed to have a 0-cost 5/5 taunt on the turn he does play his quest.
Kolento's not going to blink. He knows his RDU is overloaded. There's 10 damage showing with 20 health. There's 13 that we know from RDU.
Aya is not what RDU is looking for here.
And now he's also very scared of the quest, so does he start trading or does he go for the Bloodlust lethal? Remember, if Kolento finishes the quest, that's pretty much just going to be lights out for RDU unless he can find direct damage to end the game.
There is the Patches he could use to trade in. He could clear all 3 of these minions, keep the Barnes on the board, potentially Patches and Hero Power, and then maybe Evolve. Potentially give himself enough of a board that he could overwhelm Kolento with the Bloodlust the following turn. But any of these minions left in play will be 5/5, so RDU needs to deal with them before that happens.
If he sets his opponent to 15, oh, he's going to just trade immediately. Okay, I was thinking about keeping the Barnes alive, like you said. But I guess he's just going to maybe start getting that damage in. Minion is nice. Wow, a pretty big minion in the 5/4. I guess that makes the same as Barnes anyways. A preparation comes in the hand. Kolento's able to do the quest for 2 mana.
That means Bilefin Tidehunter comes down, a 5/5 taunt to get in the way.
Over.
Yeah, with the Shadow Step. That preparation may have just been what gets Kolento to the World Championship.
I can't believe it.
Comes out. Shadow Step, 2 Tidehunters. The wall of taunts is real, and RDU is staring at what may be the end of his tournament road.
How much damage is Patches plus Bloodlust? That's 10, 12, plus an additional 12 is 24 damage, and there's 30 health worth of stuff that RDU has to go through, including the taunts.
And it doesn't line up perfectly. He doesn't get to attack 5 power into one of the taunts and then 5 power into the other. He has to end up wasting damage here.
Every single one of Kolento's series has come down to Game 5. This is the first series that RDU has not swept his opponent, and it might be his last one. Now, granted, Kolento can't kill RDU in the next turn. We still have a little bit of Hearthstone left to play. And if RDU chooses to go for the board control route, there is a world where he may be able to win off of that. Here we go. Bloodlust to just try and stabilize here.
He can push 12. He has Jade Lightning in his hand. So there's still a world in which RDU just burns out Kolento.
Yes. He can get his Jade Lightnings. Shadow Step's okay. I mean, it helps him get another taunt minion out there.
RDU is all in on burn.
And he needs 2 turns to do it. So he's banking on 2 things. He's banking on Clinto not loading up a big board. This Mimic Pod is also a huge moment. Yeah.
That's 2-1 cost 5-5.
That's 2-5. That's 2 5/5s there. He can play for cheap.
And it also means that Kolento does not need to trade at all this turn.
Yes.
He perhaps
You're right.
was going to have to attack into this 5-4, but now he can simply freeze it
and push for 10.
And push for damage, and that will just set up lethal next turn. That doesn't even give RDU the opportunity to get the mana to play 2 Jade Lightnings. Even if RDU draws Jade Lightning next turn, Kolento can set up lethal.
Clinto was going to play Tar Creeper, but he also has the ability to Shadow Step that Battlefield Hunter for an additional 5/5 taunt. Kolento is 1 turn away from going to the World Championship. RDU, even if he draws a second Jade Lightning, it's not going to be enough. There is 1 card that can save him, and that's a Devolve.
That's not it.
Has to be a taunt totem. It's not. The realization is sinking in.
He has come so far, but Kolento, this is China. He is K-God.
Well played.
We have our last semifinalist. Kolento from Ukraine has upset RDU despite the odds, sending the Romanian home. Kolento is going to the World Championships.
And the crowd is going wild. They love to see their adopted Chinese player, who has been so dominant in this country, make his way to the World Championship here in Shanghai.
Chinese fans, they don't even believe it. It was dead quiet. You could drop a pin in the back of the room and you could hear it audibly when Kolento was down 0-2. But again, for the second time in this tournament, Kolento was down 0-2 with very unfavorable decks to beat, and he was able to come back with a reverse sweep.
And he will join Hoi, Ant, and Nai Ria at the World Championship and playing for the Spring Championship just after this.
Unbelievable. Hoi and Ant will be coming up next. Nairia versus Kolento, a battle between 2 Ukrainians. Kolento, our winner, is waiting with Ali.
All right, everyone, congratulations to Clinto K-God! Wow! K 神再一次展现了他的神力哈。当然了，我也觉得我们应该给 RDU 鼓个掌，好吗？恭喜一下 RDU 啊，非常棒，非常棒，打得很精彩。我觉得 RDU 也特别不容易，我感觉全中国的人民都在奶 RDU 刚才哈，弹幕里面各种刷 RDU 稳了 ，RDU 强无敌哈。我知道大部分人都是投票给了 Clinto 哈，大家为了卡包都支持 K-God。All right, so K-God, amazing match and amazing game. But I have to ask, during those series, is there any moment that you think that you might go into this?
I was 0-2. Of course, I thought it might happen. He was really close. It was literally, it came down to last top deck. I was dead otherwise, right? Lucky for me, I guess.
Right, good. 好，我刚才问的问题是，K 神在刚才比赛当中有没有那么一刻觉得自己会输？毕竟是神嘛。然后他说，哎，其实我也有这种感觉了，尤其是0-2落后的时候哈。但是呢，自己还是表现的还是不错啊。后来就赢了，就那么轻松啊 ，so easy 哈。这是他的答案哈，非常霸气啊！掌声鼓励一下，来 ，It's amazing，right？ And I like to ask for the fans here because every time you made a good move, can you feel it? I mean, the crowd's just like cheering for you. Did you feel that energy?
We have a nice noise headset, so I didn't hear anything really.
But can you feel it?
Feel it?
Yeah.
I felt something. Maybe it was the crowd.
Yeah, okay. You know they love you, right? They love you so much, man. You want to say anything to them?
You guys cool for watching Hearthstone?
All right, awesome. Right， 我刚才问 K God， 我说 K 神，你在整个比赛过程当中有没有感受到咱们中国观众啊，每一次你抽了一个好牌，他全部都会给你鼓掌啊？有没有感受到？K 神非常霸气说，我戴着耳机一点都听不到啊。那我说你有没有感受到那么一点点？他说没错，还是感受到了。然后他说他会继续为大家赢得卡包啊！大家还是掌声鼓励一下，it's really good, really good. Yeah. Okay, so now you're going to face your friend and your fellow countryman Naria next game. So how do you feel about that?
Our lineups are very similar, so should be 50-50 again. I haven't seen him doing too poorly. Only last game of previous match was some weird plays, but so was mine, I guess.
Yeah. Do you have any secrets of him?
Secrets?
Yeah, secret. Yeah, of Naria. I mean, you guys are good friends, I guess.
Not really.
Not really. Okay, so it's fine. Okay, 我刚问的 K God， 接下来他在半决赛中面对的是他的老乡 Naria， 那对他有什么看法啊？他说他和 Naria 的牌组呢还是有一定的不同，当然他觉得他和 Naria 这次在之前有几把的时候打的都不是特别好，有一些小的失误，有一些打的诡异，但是接下来他还是很有信心面对他。那最后呢，导演组让我问他有没有关于 Naria 的小秘密啊？ K God 就是 K God，K 神就是 K 神，直接说没有秘密哈，我们直接当面碾压，好吧？行，那我们就祝 K 神一切顺利，继续为我们赢得卡包。Thank you very much, Kolento, everyone. I believe that this is everyone's cheering for you, and please win more packs for us. All right? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
What did I just witness? Quite possibly the greatest interview in Hearthstone history.
I think my favorite part of that interview is every time he starts translating, he starts with K-God says.
And he also, I mean, I like Ali a lot. He's really cool. He's very composed, and his fluency in both languages is absolutely stunning. But man, his translations are really wrong sometimes, where he's just like, he's misinterpreting what Kolento's saying to try to play up the crowd a little bit. But we enjoy that. I mean, the Chinese fans, they eat it up. There's a huge mystique about Kolento in China. And I'm telling you, man, from the very beginning, when I knew Kolento was going to China, I said there's something about either the food or the water or the air here. He just doesn't really lose that often in this country.
Yeah, it's just, incredible. He was in a really rough situation in that match, but was able to pull it out. And, I think we're going to take a look at a key moment here. Because, in fact, this preparation that Kolento said, he drew exactly what he needed. Otherwise, he was dead. This allowed him to go from frankly just dying next turn to absolutely dominating this game.
Yeah, a complete game changer, series deciding moment. But if you kind of heard from Kolento's mouth himself just a minute ago, he said he felt like he made some questionable plays this series, so he wasn't exactly on his best. Love the little tag of the emote, by the way. I'm kind of sad that he didn't get any fireworks, but I guess that means he just hasn't done his tavern brawls yet.
Slacker.
And here we go, our 8 players guaranteed in the World Championship. Standardachi, Frozen, Doppel, and Samuel Top from Winters, Hoi, Ant, Neria, and Kolento, and you gotta look. Europe is dominating the field. 4 players guaranteed, 5 if you count last call.
And we have the most Europeans who could have possibly qualified this morning. We had